I've just finished putting the last wood piece that I can think of at the moment that was missing from this game. So let's go over the things we did. Kind of go in order of what I did, which wasn't actually the best order to do things in. The first thing we found was that the monitor shelf and the side supports had been removed from the cabinet. The side supports turned upside down, the shelf turned upside down, and lowered pretty dramatically to fit a call it 13 or 14 inch Sanyo monitor vertically in this cabinet. So first thing I did, I took the side pieces off, found they had original screws and screw holes, so I was able to figure out which piece was originally on the right and the left and line them up exactly as they were originally. So that was the first thing I did. Then I got to this. This panel was missing. The whole thing was just not in the cabinet. And it does add some structural stability here to the cabinet. And it also is where you mount the fluorescent light fixture. So, just based on measurements from my other cabinet, I made the repro piece, cut an opening the same size as the repro, 2 drill holes using the original, my other cabinet's original fluorescent light panel for the 2 bolts that hold this panel in to get them in the right spot. I reproduced the fluorescent light panel, putting in a fluorescent bulb, a starter, and the black ballast for it. Then I went and reattached the shelf, turning it right side up, so the bits of wood that were torn out when they ripped the side supports off the bottom and then flipped this upside down, those ripped areas lined up, so a healthy amount of glue, and then I put a screw in both back corners. I didn't put them in the front corners. I figured between the glue in the front, the screws in the back, and the weight of whatever monitor goes in here, the front's not going to lift up. I could change my mind and add some screws at some point, but I definitely wanted to get some in the back because, again, this is kind of adding structural support as far as helping the cabinet not bow out anymore, because it was bowed out about 1/8 of an inch because that I discovered that this side panel had almost, if not completely, come off the cabinet. So again, I don't have a pneumatic stapler. I didn't want to bust the entire side panel off, so I used wood screws to get it back in place. I nailed the original staples where there were some that were coming out back in. And so the shelf is in its original position. This is in its original position. Fluorescent light's in its original position. There's one piece of wood I'm forgetting that has to go right here. It's half inch thick, inch deep, and 17 inches long. And it lines right up with this portion here, which is where the plexiglass sits and goes across. And at first I thought, well, why is that needed? The plexiglass is actually held on this bracket and the one on the other side, so it doesn't need support all the way across. And then as I was taking my other cabinet apart to look at some of the measurements, the cardboard surround that goes in here, I had remade from scratch just by guesstimating what it should look like, and it actually rests on that piece of wood. So I think it's a combination of a place for the cardboard bezel to sit, monitor shroud, whatever you want to call it, and then the control panel comes down in here, so it might be a piece of wood, so if anything gets spilled in the control panel. It kind of hits that, maybe. I'm not exactly sure, but that's the one piece of wood that I know I still need to find. If I can find a 1/2 inch by 1 inch, I might have to get something of a different size and trim it. But that one piece is missing. And then I'll go around to the back. So the back, again, you can see these are the holes with the really large screws that whoever flipped this panel around used. And I'm now noticing that wood panel is lifted up, which really upsets me because I'm just noticing that now. That was completely flush with a clamp on it. I screwed the thing in and somehow it has raised up. Well, that sucks. That really sucks. Hopefully, maybe tap that with a hammer, it'll go down, and then tighten that screw. I'm not sure why that lifted up. Great. Okay, well, that's how these things go. Here's this piece that I replaced. This was an original wood strip held with glue and staples. I added a screw for extra strength. Over here, this piece was missing, so I glued it to this back panel and screwed it, and then I glued and screwed it to the side with 2 screws, since this is the vinyl material. On the advice of the forums, I got tight bond melamine glue, which glues to melamine coated surfaces. It also says vinyl, so hopefully that glue is adding some extra strength in there and it's not just the screws. It's kind of odd if you eyeball it, try to get it about level. You can see the marquee panel there, but the light fixture is down about here. So it's weird, the light fixture is actually not pointing directly at the marquee. So when it lights up, it's not full brightness of the lights on it. I don't know if that's because they thought it was too bright if it was lined up evenly, but that's how my other cab is too. So don't quite understand the reason for that, but that's a thing. And then if we go up, this is what I just did today. There's now a vent. This thin piece of, I think it's plywood, was, when I got the cab, just screwed right to this back panel, so there was no vent here. No air could get in or out of this area. So today, I painted, and yeah, you can kind of see it. 3/4 inch block. I painted flat black on this side, one side, and then I glued and nailed it to the cabinet, and then I glued and stapled this thin sheet to it. So now there's a way for air, hot air, to get out. Same thing over here, original cabinet, and then you can see the piece that I painted and put in there. And we'll go around to the front. And again, this was originally, there's a notch there and a notch over here. It was originally screwed to the cabinet. Not originally, but when I got it. So I pulled this piece off. I realized, hey, that was the original piece, looking at my other one. And so I added the 3/4 inch blocks behind it. Like I said, nailed and glued them to the cabinet, and then I glued and stapled this thin piece of plywood back in. So now it's got its original vent area. And then this was the last thing I did. I just did this, and I don't know why. I do not know what this piece is for. It is 13.5 inches from the face of it out to the edge of the top panel. I originally thought maybe it's to keep the monitor from sliding back, but it doesn't look like it'll actually do that, so I'm not sure if that's something that they used in assembly, maybe, because there's a gap here between it and the back of the cabinet. So I'm not sure what that piece is, but it was originally there. I could see the glue where it was originally mounted. I measured my other cabinet that has one still in place, and I put this in the original spot. So apart from not knowing what happened with my clamps over there and that back corner lifting up a bit, apart from that and this missing piece, hopefully I'm done with the majority of the woodwork on this cabinet, and it's just trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it. If I'm just going to let it sit and try and gather all the original pieces to finish the electronic restoration. I still need to decide, or just go ahead and do it, order a replacement panel for this. Coin door work, obviously, but yeah, the major parts was the woodwork. So that's what I've been doing.